It is the year 1585 of the Yemian calendar. In that time, we Magi have risen to the purpose of being an order of wise men, dedicated to the advancement of knowledge and science, as well as the primary compilers of lore and wisdom in these lands. Far and wide our kind wander, collecting knowledge to be added to our great library, the Citadel of Thane in Helfhurst. The Citadel's vast collection holds knowledge on all the high and important subjects: alchemy, botany, geology, history, metaphysics, and others still. I, Magi Scholar Cercius, have taken up the task of compiling our knowledge of these realms. The known world, the so-called Hemisphere. Talden is a land of roads, rivers, and forests, with cities relatively few in number. The kingdom's inhabitants are said to be the descendants of the Hill People, an ancient tribe who warred with the Faelings in the distant past. For many centuries, Taldenian society has remained largely stagnant, as determined by the god Yem in ages past. But the ancient order has largely collapsed in recent years. With the smuggling of black powder from the east, castles fall instantly, ferocious battles ravage the land, and knights wander without purpose. Widespread discontent has caused the king himself to fear from his throne in his palace in Sierre. A relatively small northern kingdom, Salungrad has nevertheless grown wealthy through trade with the south. A breakaway sect of Yemism known as the Faith of the Blue Comet is Salun's ruling religion. The faith claims that Salungrad's founder, a powerful warlord by the name of Thelkestrat the Bold, converted to true Yemism after witnessing the passing of the Blue Comet over the heavens, and built the city of Salungrad there upon the bordering Whitewood Forest in Yem's name. Throughout Salun, much power remains under the command of the sacred Comet's priests. With its immense trade wealth, Salungrad has expanded across the barren north to form a burgeoning empire, ruled by Blue Emperor Thelkestrat IV. Rhodesia is an enormous land extending into the far south of the world. Its coasts are dominated by many dozens of feuding city-states, which sustain themselves through trade and mercantilism with other lands. The grandest of these ports is no doubt Zolthon, one of the former capitals of the vanquished Golden Empire that ruled Rhodesia prior to its collapse 1,000 years ago. It is remarked that Zolthon is so large that all the peoples of the world could fit inside its walls with room to spare. The coastlands of Rhodesia are grassy and flat. Mountains, swamps, and blazing deserts occupy its sparsely traversed interior. But everywhere in Rhodesia, it is hot and humid, even when rain falls. A constant influx of people come and go through its great cities, making Rhodesia a land as varied as it is vast. In the great Rhodesian desert of the Dry Reach lie the ruins of the ancient Aptish kingdom. Apt was the earliest known civilization to arise in our world, though certain occult sects contest this claim. Doubtlessly, the very first sorcerers were Aptish, and they made great discoveries in both alchemy and commanding magic. There is also the Brotherhood of Mahadis, a secretive assassins guild that claims descendants from the warriors of Apt. Apt severely declined over time from a series of plagues, droughts, and wars with the rising Golden Empire to the west. Most of the kingdom has presently collapsed, though a small fragment in the Dry Reach still clings to its former glory. In the seas to the west lies the island of Canor. The faith of Yem originated somewhere in the hot, rugged hills of this land, among smithery cults dedicated to the one-eyed world forger. Canorites are sparse in number and concern themselves little with the doings of the mainland. Nevertheless, Canor is one of the few places in the world relatively tolerant of that mysterious force known as magic, though black magic is still harshly punished by law. To the south of Canor lie the Yillish Islands, passed through by a great many ships voyaging to the wealthy ports of the Sutherlands. The most distant of these isles, Amanzi, is a place shunned and avoided by all sailors, no matter where they hail from. Amanzi is covered by the ruins of dead cities that reek of salt and rot. A race of xenophobic fishmen haunt these ruins, ensuring that all who dare step foot on Amanzi's shores are fated to never leave. The histories chronicled by the Aptish tell us that many generations ago there existed another land, somewhere beyond Rhodesia. That land was called Pithosia, said to be a very beautiful country of high limestone towers, sweetwood gardens, and cities that moved on the backs of giant basilisks. Its people were not fully human, as they had sacrificed to a sea deity, and were becoming more and more fish-like with each successive generation. Alas, during the Third Aptish-Pithosian War, Ab sorcerers wrought their most powerful magic on the island, causing it to sink beneath the waves, its beauty never again to be heralded by mortal eyes. Scholars in the south are in possession of the few dozen scrolls saved from Pithosia before its untimely doom. Much wisdom must lie in these tomes from a time forgotten. The Center Lands are a fragmented realm, informally called the Many Kingdoms. The long-ago collapse of the ancient councils that once governed the Northern Realms left these lands in chaos and disarray. Hundreds of smaller kingdoms have since risen in place of the councils, continuously vying for power and influence over each other. Bandits and rogue knights have long been the terror of the Many Kingdoms, with the elusive Hunt of Morheen being the most notorious of them all. The Hunt appear as 5 to 7 knights clad in demonic black armor, with the reputation for looting and pillaging towns misfortunate enough to meet their swords. Some believe as many as 9 or 10 knights involved in the hunt, and others even swear them to be phantoms. They and others' attacks have caused great misfortune for years on end, despite the ruling lord's best efforts to vanquish their kind. The largest city in all the Many Kingdoms is Elfhurst, where stands the citadel of Thane of our own Magi Order. Elfhurst is an ancient city, having been built during the days of the Council's rule. An extensive network of dark, damp, labyrinthian catacombs extends below all of Elfhurst. Some even say the ancient city's crypts are connected to a buried underground city built by shambling stone golems whose masters vanished long ago. Among other prominent cities in the Many Kingdoms are besieged Ognar to the west, cultured Vamedri to the north, and the democratic Kavian Freehold to the south. Beyond the Many Kingdoms, much of the east is covered by a great forest, vast, deep, and dark. This forest, known simply as the Fae, is so large that its borders extend beyond the boundaries of most existing maps. Outsiders are not welcome in the Fae, as the forest is dominated almost entirely by strange and dangerous magical creatures. Among them, the ethereal Faelings. Faelings are beings that inhabit the forests and deepest wilds of the world, usually well away from humans. Faelings are ethereal and beautiful, but also of an alien morality incomprehensible to us. Most are violently hostile to intruders to their forests. If myths are to be believed, the Faelings were once of immense power and influence in the distant past, when the entirety of these lands were covered by a never-ending Fae. The Hill People destroyed much of the Fae, driving its inhabitants eastwards, and with each successive conflict, the Faewoods have continued to shrink. Soon, they may disappear from the world forever. Though it would appear that few humans have ever gone far into the Fae, there are some frightening signs to the contrary. On the edge of the Fae to the east stands Blackstraw, a massive fortress that even the Faelings seem to hold a strange fear of. Who or what built Blackstraw, and for what purpose, remains unclear. Even its age is a mystery, but it must be thousands of years old, being mentioned in the accounts of ancient Eastern expeditionaries. Surely a terrible secret must lurk within the halls of Blackstraw that Faelings and humans alike are afraid of. To the south of the Fae lies Myria, an isolated island where humans, Faelings, and animal men all live in relative peace. Foreigners who travel to the island, however, are restricted to its sole port city, Muir. The flowers of Myria remain the sole source of a rare drug that brings dreams of prophecy, but is also lethally addictive. The Demon Wastes are a cursed desert where nothing lives or grows, save a small number of primitive tribes, the descendants of a now forgotten civilization that destroyed itself after it attempted to best its nameless starry gods. The Wastes are an affront to life itself. Evil creatures swoop from the skies to tear flesh from bone, and the land is perpetually ravaged by living sandstorms. So feared and shunned are the Demon Wastes that the warlords of the South are known to exile their prisoners to the desert as punishment for their crimes. On the very edge of the known world lies Hycrania, a distant land few but the most accomplished travelers and merchants have been to. Hycrania is a mountainous country, its history scattered amongst countless ruined cities and temples. Pirates, slavers, and black powder smugglers sail the seas around Hycrania, making voyaging here a task both long and dangerous. Of the lands beyond the mountains of Hycrania, our knowledge proves hazy and fragmented, but there are still tales that have been told to us from merchants, traders, and explorers in this region. The continent known as Sin. To the northeast of the Demon Wastes lies a stranger country still, Lethequaphania. Though altogether less hostile than its southern neighbor, travelers to this grim and icy land will still have to contend with the man-devouring giant spiders that roam here. On an impossibly high plateau within Leth is said to lie a mystical pool. This is the legendary Well of All Worlds, which grants its visitors visions of other planes of existence, other spheres beyond our own. Very far inland lies the Sealed Sea. The waters of this strange sea are metallic and undrinkable, stained red by the strange plants that grow on its banks. Sinnish alchemists and warlocks congregate on the Sealed Sea shores to harness the magical properties of its blood-stained water. On the very edge of the Sinnish mountains sits an isolated city known in the language of its inhabitants as Dinar Cormian. Outsiders are forbidden from entry into Dinar Cormian, and those inside the city are forever barred from leaving. Wise travelers in sin best steer clear of the city altogether, for those who draw too close to its gates are killed on sight. This hostility is because the city's residents follow a strange religion that preaches the outside world to be an illusion. Those few who venture beyond the mountains will find themselves on the path of the far road, beyond the towering cities of Lesser Crania and through the jungles of stone. And finally, at the very edges of sin, there lies the great Catalan Empire, a land we know very little of. Only explorers, merchants, and missionaries of Yem have traveled to these farthest reaches. The beasts called dragons, long hunted to extinction in the rest of the world, roam Catala's jungles in abundance, passing their fiery judgment on the doings of the Empire. Past the Straits of Yaman, in the utmost east, there surely must be lands undreamed of, shrouded in darkness and mystery, even to the king of Catala's imperial geographers. Of these farthest ends of the hemisphere, so vastly distant to us, we possess no knowledge. Though the edges of sin may be the lands farthest from our reach, they are, in truth, not the most mysterious. The far south of Rhodesia is ruled by Uruk, an empire yet to come. According to the prophecies carved into massive stone slabs beneath the Seer's Temple in Zulfan, it is Uruk's destiny to become the greatest empire that ever was or will be, in some future time. A Urukan monk was, allegedly, the author of the dreaded Esoteric Journals, a collection of tomes compiling knowledge of an especially peculiar nature. Various fragments of the journals have made their way to the lands of the north, but most have since been destroyed, burned on the orders of the Yemian Church. One fragment of the journals is held in this very citadel, locked away in a forbidden hall no magi are permitted to enter. Another is in the possession of the House of the Vine, a shadowy academy of black magic. The journals speak primarily of the Elders, a group of vastly powerful and destructive beings who ruled the civilization of the Demon Wastes prior to its ultimate demise. The mad worshippers of the Elders believed that they lived still, sealed under the earth in deep sleep, their dreams slowly and subtly bending the world above to their will. Of this world, the Hemisphere, I have written much. My task should now be complete, and yet the priests of Sire teach that there is only one true world, the world that Yem forged in his image so very long ago. But the sorcerer occultists at the House of the Vine say otherwise, believing that, in truth, there are a great many spheres beyond the boundaries of our own, drifting far through the dark aether. Spear travelers have journeyed to our own hemisphere through the doors between worlds, which open and close in accordance with metaphysical laws. The doors had been sealed shut for countless thousands of years, until the sorcerers of the House of the Vine forced them back open 80 years ago, to escape the ignorance and fear of a world that did not understand their kind.